मेरा परिचय, मैं नरेंद्र नाथ, ये नेशनल कोalition फॉर नेचुरल फार्मिंग, इसके नेशनल एंकर हूँ। और खाली ये सब्जेक्ट आपको इंट्रोड्यूस कराएंगे, उसके बाद मैं हट जाऊंगा, आपका विशेषज्ञ को हैंड ओवर करेंगे। तो एनसीएनएफ एक नेशनल, राष्ट्रीय स्तर का एक गठबंधन है संस्थाओं का और विशेषज्ञों का, जो प्राकृतिक खेती को आगे बढ़ाना जो चाहते हैं। एक गठबंधन है। और समय समय पर हम इस प्रकार के वेबिनार का आयोजन करते रहते हैं। हम सोचते हैं कि जो वर्तमान समय के जो ज्वलंत मुद्दे हैं, खासकर खेती और पर्यावरण के जो संबंधित मुद्दों को, उनको संज्ञान संज्ञान ले लें, और उनको उसके बारे में विशेषज्ञ लोगों से चर्चा करें, और उस चर्चा को आपके समक्ष लेके आए और आपके साथ उस चर्चा को ले आए। ये हमारी एक उत्तरदायित्व के प्रति हम समझते हैं, इसलिए हम ये वेबिनार आयोजन करते हैं। तो आज का हमारा मुद्दा है, ये जो आप सब जानते हैं, जो एडवर्टाइज हमने किया था, ये नया जो 2025 का कीटनाशक प्रबंधन बिल या इंसेक्टिसाइड्स पेस्टिसाइड्स मैनेजमेंट बिल 2025, इसका एक ड्राफ्ट, एक प्रारूप अभी निकाले हैं भारत सरकार ने, और उसमें हमसे कमेंट्स मांगे हैं। तो 4 फरवरी तक उसका टाइम है, और हम सोचें कि आज ही जितना जल्दी ये मीटिंग करें, इस जितना जल्दी ये मीटिंग हम लोग कर पाएंगे, तो उसके बाद आ, आप सब लोग मिलके और हम लोग सब मिलके भारत सरकार को हमारी तरफ से जो रिकमेंडेशंस हैं वो हम पेश कर पाएंगे। तो ये जो बिल है, ये कहते हैं कि करीब 60 साल के बाद ये बिल एक रिविजन पे आया है। इसके पहले 1968 का एक बिल था, इंसेक्टिसाइड्स बिल। और अभी एक भारत सरकार ने एक उसके ऊपर एक संशोधन लाया है, और संशोधन के एक नया बिल ही लाया है। और इस बिल की खासियत है कि ये कीटनाशकों का खाली उत्पादन नहीं, पर उसके सारे पहलुओं पर, उसका आयात, उसका फॉर्मुलेशन, पैकेजिंग, लेबलिंग, स्टोरेज, विज्ञापन, उसका आना जाना, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, उसका इस्तेमाल करना, उसका वितरण, ये सारे मुद्दों पर ये बिल नियंत्रित करने की कोशिश कर रहा है। इस बिल के अनुसार कीटनाशक एक केवल कृषि का मुद्दा नहीं है, ये एक सार्वजनिक स्वास्थ्य का मुद्दा है। तो इसको एक बहुत बड़ा एक पहलू में उसको देखने की कोशिश किया गया है। तो ये बिल के बारे में हमको और जानकारी देने के लिए हम कुछ विशेषज्ञों को बुलाए हैं। विशेषज्ञों की जरूरत इसीलिए भी है क्योंकि सरकारी बिल है, हम सबको उसको ठीक से पढ़ना, उतना जानकारी शायद हमारे पास होता नहीं है कि हम उसको अच्छा से पढ़ें। और मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम ये जो उसका बिटवीन द लाइंस पढ़ना पड़ता है समझने के लिए बिल का क्या इम्प्लीकेशन होता है। तो ये सब जो जानकार लोग उसको पढ़ते हैं और उनको बताएंगे, हम सुनेंगे उनसे कि एक इस बिल में क्या खासियत है, क्या खामियां है। तो ये जो मुद्दा उन्होंने बताया, पर्यावरण का सुरक्षा, जान माल का सुरक्षा, ये सब के, ये जो मुद्दों के सामने ये बिल, ये जो नया जो ड्राफ्ट आया है, वो कितना कामयाब साबित होगा, ये हम जानना चाहेंगे। ये कहीं पे अगर ये इसमें कोई चूक होता है, या किसी किसान को या किसी व्यक्ति को उससे नुकसान होता है, उसका जो निवारण का प्रक्रिया इसमें क्या है। ये बड़े बड़े कॉरपोरेट के सामने एक हमारा छोटा किसान कमजोर पड़ जाता है कि ताकतवर होता है इस बिल के द्वारा, ये हम जानना चाहेंगे। इंटरनेशनल बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस के सामने इसकी तुलना में ये बिल क्या खरा उतरता है या कमजोर पड़ जाता है। इस बिल की जो प्रावधानों में कितनी पारदर्शिता है, पढ़ने में कितना हम लोग को समझ में आएगा। और कुछ भी हमारा मुद्दा है तो उसका जो निवारण के लिए क्या सरकार हमारे साथ रहेगी, कोर्ट हमारे साथ रहेगी, या किसान को अधर में छोड़ देंगे। तो ये सब जानकारी हम जानना चाहेंगे विशेषज्ञों से, और इसको हमको बताने के लिए हमारे सामने दो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रिसोर्स पर्सन, एक्सपर्ट्स मौजूद हैं, डॉक्टर श्री रामांजनेय लोग और डॉक्टर श्री नरसिम्हा रेड्डी। तो इन दोनों को आप लोग शायद पहले से जानते हैं, करीब 30 साल से ऊपर ये दोनों लोग पर्यावरण और कृषि, प्राकृतिक खेती और इस सब के सारे मुद्दों पर पढ़ते रहते हैं, लिखते रहते हैं, हम लोगों को जानकारी देते रहते हैं, सिखाते रहते हैं। और इन लोगों के मार्गदर्शन में ही हम लोग, हमारे जैसे कोalitions काम भी कर रहे हैं प्राकृतिक खेती में। तो इन दोनों से हम सुनेंगे इनका अपना इसके ऊपर का वक्तव्य क्या है, और उसके बाद हम उनसे सवाल जवाब भी कर सकते हैं। तो हम सोचते हैं कि ये करीब पहले राउंड में हम 30-30 मिनट दोनों को देंगे बात करने के लिए। और उसके बाद क्योंकि वो दोनों इंग्लिश में बोलेंगे, तो बस सब लोगों को समझने के लिए मेरी कलीग रीना है, वो उनको थोड़ा हिंदी में समझाएंगे। और उसके बाद में हम लोग उनके साथ सवाल जवाब भी कर सकते हैं, और उसके बाद में आप लोगों का भी कुछ कुछ वक्तव्य सुन पाएंगे। तो ये मोटा मोटा एक हम एक सीक्वेंस रखते हैं। तो पहले हम आमंत्रण देंगे डॉक्टर रामांजनेलु को, जिसको हम रामू के द्वारा भी जानते हैं। तो रामू जी, आप अपना अपना वक्तव्य दीजिए इस बिल के बारे में। उसके बाद उसका ट्रांसलेशन हम कराएंगे। तो आप इंग्लिश में बोलिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं। बहुत बहुत
Uh,
धन्यवाद।
Thanks, Naren. I will broadly talk about the issues with the current pesticide regulation and then the what new seed bill is proposing. I think a clause by clause analysis Narasimha Reddy ji will do. So I think that's how we'll divide the responsibility in presenting the whole thing. Uh, the regulation of pesticides in India is as old as me. It started when I was just born, and after that there is so much changes happened in the industry, and then the more new issues have come up, but the regulation has never been improved. So an attempt is made 20 years back, nearly in 2004-5, to bring a regulation like along with the seed bill, but it remained as a bill only. It never became the act. So key issues in this is how pesticides are approved and how they are regulated, and if there is any problem, how that can be brought to the notice of the government, and then if they have to impose a ban, how it would be imposed. So if you look at from that framework, this bill is more like ease of doing business, so for the pesticide industry also. So basically saying how easily they can get an approval, and how easily they can market, and how easily they can get a approval for from a regulation, and minimize the accountability. I think that's what the current bill says. I think which is the unfortunate thing. I think that's what the first issue we need to look at. This is more like promoting pesticides bill rather than pesticide regulation bill. So it's a sales promotion bill to be put in. Second is in terms of data submission, we were asking for a long time the burden of submitting the data that it is safer has to be on the companies. But today that is not the case. Whatever company is giving, government is taking and then they are approving. And in the new bill also, they are not uh, made it clear, and compared to the international practices, like whether you look at EU or US, the burden of putting the data is on the industry, whereas in India that's not the case. So even in the new bill they are not talking about it. So the registration committee actually has to take a precautionary approach while for approving these pesticides. I think that's what need to come into the bill clearly. And second is, and in this to just mention the kind of lapses government brought into the new regulation. They introduced a clause called it as a deemed to registration. So if somebody applies for a approval, and if it get delayed by 18 months, it is approved as a deemed to be registered, and then they can go forward. I think this is a very dangerous clause, because see, it's not like I apply for a credit, and then if it doesn't, if the application is not moved by the banker, and then it is deemed to be approved, right? Because it's a pesticide which has a serious impact, and how can it be a deemed to be registered? And also, if there is a fault of the officer has to be punished. Why should people be punished about it? So without looking into these things, these clauses whichever industry wanted have added. So the provisional registration and this deemed to register is something which is I think is absolutely unacceptable things. Also, there is a, like for the Supreme Court judges, etc., there is a cooling period, which is like after retirement, join industry. They actually reduced the timeline to 3 years now compared to the earlier one. So this is a revolving door. India very, very clearly seen many of the senior officials in the who acted as regulators after retirement move into the industry. So working, they were taking many favorable decisions towards the uh, industry. So this is one of the clauses which we need to consider and then tell the government to withdraw these clauses very importantly. And also at the process of banning, if any pesticide is found to be harmful, the process of banning is extremely difficult, and particularly all the powers for the state are taken away. So they can maximum they can impose restrictions for less than a month, less than a year, and beyond that they can't do anything. So the complete the complete powers for the state have been taken away, and then completely it is in the hands of the industry. I think that's what is the key challenge in this new thing. Also, when it comes to the standards, maximum residual limits, etc., that basically they said FSSI will look at it. So this bill doesn't talk about any of these things. The bill even doesn't talk about any of the outdated pesticides, how they want to put in regulation, etc. So nothing of that sort in this bill. Another important issue is the, again, coming back to the states. Say earlier experiences show, say for example, when Kerala endosulfan case happened, or when in Andhra Pradesh when monocrotophos use increased, and then on the glyphosate, state could put some restrictions on usage, and then state could bring in some regulation, and those also will go, and then so state will not have any role to play. So if you earlier bill, the seed bill also is the same story. So essentially what is happening is all these new regulations are focusing on making it easy for the industry, taking away the rights of the states, and the, not giving any options for the people. I think that's where the issue lies. And also when they're submitting, they're talking about digitization, information availability, and all. But if the information is not available, what are they going to make it available? Say, for example, if any pesticide is permitted, what are the risks associated? What are the studies already done? What are the data based on which the approval is given? If that kind of data is not made available, what is digitization they are going to do? They are only going to say this is the name of the pesticide and then this is the manufacturer. Beyond that, what is the information they want to put in as a by digitization of all these things? Because they're saying digitization will bring in transparency, but what is that digitization they're going to do? Because they're not even asking the data. So that is a key issues. And also there are some clauses about traditional knowledge, and then because if you look at in the last 30-40 years, we also have seen many of the people's knowledge it was used, and then they made it into the pesticide, they made it into a product and then brought it into the market. For example, the neem or turmeric, many of those things. So when such traditional knowledge was used to make pesticides, giving the background information and then the sourcing, all that is also very critical, and there's no structural mechanisms to identify these, and then while approving itself, stopping them, and then see whether proper acknowledgements were given, and then whether it is kept open source. So those kind of things are not there in these bills. I think these are the broad issues. So if I have to look at the key recommendations from our side, I think I would suggest the bill based on the precautionary principle. I think the most harmful pesticides are not to be allowed. Rest of the pesticides should be allowed only with serious regulation. Absolute risk assessment has to be the responsibility of the government, and get submitting the data on the risk assessment should be the responsibility of the companies. Similarly, the establishment of independent regulatory body is critical. It cannot run the way it is run now, and we need to also expand the scope of the conflict of interest clauses, because in 3 years, if they go off and then join, I think it's going to be a serious conflict of interest. So we need to increase the cooling off period for over 5 years. And biosafety data should be publicly disclosed, and we need to eliminate the deemed to be registered clause, and states should get more powers, and without states having powers to regulate, it's going to be very, very tedious. I think this is where I would stop. Just saying we have increased the penalty doesn't matter, because you are weakened all other sections, and also penalty is increased compared to 1957. I think that's what we need to look at. So if you look at the inflation, I think what the increase is nothing. So I would stop here.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर।
या कोई क्लैरिफिकेशन वगैरह है तो अभी पूछ भी सकते हैं ना, इनका थोड़ा और टाइम है इनके पास, तो हम लोग
Or after both of us speak, we can have the clarifications, either of it. It is fine. Yeah.
ठीक ठीक है। रीना, गो अहेड।
यस, नमस्कार साथियों, मेरा नाम रीना है और अभी मैं पेस्टिसाइड्स मैनेजमेंट बिल 2025 पर जो डॉक्टर रामू ने अपना प्रस्तुति दी है उसका एक संक्षिप्त सार साझा कर रही हूँ। तो बेसिकली देखा जाए तो ये बिल 57 साल पुराने इंसेक्टिसाइड एक्ट 1968 को बदलने के लिए लाया गया है और सरकार इससे बहुत बड़ा सुधार बता रही है। लेकिन असली सवाल ये है कि क्या यह कानून किसानों, उपभोक्ताओं और पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा के लिए या फिर कीटनाशकों की बिक्री के और सुविधा के लिए है। और ये पूरी चर्चा इसी के इर्द गिर्द घूम रही है। तो सबसे पहले अगर हम भारत की जो जमीनी सच्चाई है उसके बारे में अगर हम बात करें तो हर साल अगर हम देखें, हर साल हजारों लोग कीटनाशक के जहर से मरते हैं और किसानों की आत्महत्या में भी कीटनाशकों की आसान उपलब्धता का एक बहुत बड़ा कारण है। तो जो हालात ऐसे हैं, जब हालात ऐसे हैं तो जो नया कानून है उसे कैसा होना चाहिए? सबसे पहले वो नुकसान रोके। लेकिन जब हम बात करें ये जो बिल है, क्या ये बिल वही करता है? यही सवाल डॉक्टर रामू ने उठाया है। तो सरकार का दावा है कि जो सरकार कह रही है कि ये बिल जो है वो कीटनाशकों को सुरक्षित बनाएगा, डिजिटल सिस्टम लाएगा और दंड को सख्त करेगा। लेकिन अगर हम इस बिल को ध्यान से देखें तो ये सुरक्षा से ज्यादा प्रशासन को डिजिटल बनाने और लाइसेंस प्रक्रिया को आसान करने पर केंद्रित है। तो यानी सवाल सुरक्षा का है, लेकिन समाधान ज्यादातर मैनेजमेंट का दिया जा रहा है। अब सबसे बड़ी समस्या ये है कि सब कुछ केंद्र के हाथ में है। इस बिल में लगभग सारी ताकत जो केंद्रीय रजिस्ट्रेशन कमेटी को दे दी गई है। अब समस्या ये है कि राज्यों की भूमिका बहुत सीमित हो जाती है। राज्य सिर्फ 1 साल के लिए किसी कीटनाशक पर रोक लगा सकते हैं और स्थायी रोक लगाने का अधिकार केंद्र के पास है। तो अब जरा सोचिए कि अगर यही कानून 2002 में होता तो केरल में जो एंडोसल्फान है उस पर स्थायी बैन नहीं लग पाता। यानी ज्यादा जो जिन राज्यों में नुकसान ज्यादा है उनके हाथ सबसे ज्यादा बंधे हुए हैं। अब यह बिल यह भी कहता है कि अगर किसी कीटनाशक को लेकर संदेह हो तो सरकार चाहे तो उसे मंजूरी ना दे। अब यहाँ समस्या जो शब्द है चाहे तो उसमें है, इसका मतलब रोकना जरूरी नहीं है और कंपनी को नहीं सरकार को साबित करना है कि ये खतरनाक है कि नहीं। जबकि दुनिया के दूसरे देशों में ये नियम उल्टा है, वहां कंपनी को साबित करना पड़ता है कि ये उत्पाद सुरक्षित है या नहीं है। फिर एक और इसमें खतरनाक प्रावधान जिसकी डॉक्टर रामू ने जिक्र किया। अब इस बिल में सबसे ज्यादा चिंताजनक जो हिस्सा है वो है डिम्ड रजिस्ट्रेशन का। तो जो कीटनाशक जो है उसको अपने आप मंजूर मान लिया जाएगा अगर वो समय पर उसकी जांच नहीं हुई तो। इसके अलावा अगर हम इसमें दंड और जवाबदेही पर बात करें तो किसी भी अगर कीटनाशक से किसी की मौत हो जाती है तब जुर्माना सीमित है और इसका कंपनियों पर कोई असर नहीं होगा। तो साफ यह है कि नुकसान किसान और उपभोक्ताओं का है लेकिन जवाबदेही इसमें तय नहीं है। साथ ही जो डिजिटल सिस्टम की बात की गई है वो आम किसान के लिए यह जानना मुश्किल है कि कौन सा कीटनाशक कितना खतरनाक है और उससे स्वास्थ्य पर क्या असर होगा। डिजिटल होना ठीक है लेकिन पारदर्शिता और जानकारी का अधिकार उससे ज्यादा जरूरी है। तो इस पूरी प्रस्तुति में पेस्टिसाइड मैनेजमेंट बिल को अगर एक पंक्ति में कहें तो वो है कीटनाशकों के नुकसान को कम करने की बजाय उनकी उपलब्धता और बिक्री को आसान बनाता है ये कानून। तो अगर ऐसे कानून जब बनते हैं तो उसमें जो सजेशंस दिए हैं डॉक्टर रामू ने, वो सजेशंस हैं जैसे कि किसान की जान को सबसे ऊपर रखा जाए, जो उपभोक्ता हैं उनके स्वास्थ्य को प्राथमिकता दी जाए और पर्यावरण से समझौता नहीं किया जाए। अगर इस बिल में ये बातें नहीं जुड़ी तो सुरक्षा कानून नहीं बल्कि ये बिक्री कानून बनकर रह जाएगा। धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद रीना। तो ये डॉक्टर रामायण जी की प्रस्तुति और उसकी परिभाषा। तो आप अपने नोट्स बना लीजिए, अगर कोई सवाल वगैरह पूछना है तो हम आगे इसके बाद में देंगे, एक मौका रहेगा। अभी हम आमंत्रण करते हैं डॉक्टर नरसिम्हा रेड्डी को। सो आई इनवाइट डॉक्टर नरसिम्हा रेड्डी। तो मिस्टर डॉक्टर रेड्डी, प्लीज कम फॉरवर्ड एंड मेक योर प्रेजेंटेशन। थैंक यू।
क्यों नरेन जी, I have a PPT, I'll share it. Oh, I think I need a screen sharing option.
Yeah, you can share it now, Dr. Reddy. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I think Ramu has laid the base for discussion. हम तो बहुत बड़ा clause wise analysis, sorry, okay, we have given clause wise analysis. And it's pretty long, so I'm not going to discuss all of them. There's no time, and it's also pretty boring. So I think you people remember this journey of amendment. Formal process began with 2008 Pesticide Management Bill. Later, it became a 2017 bill. Later again, a 2020 bill, and now the latest is 2025. So this has gone through 4 phases of formal amendments. So there are texts, when I'm saying formal, there are 4 texts which were there. But basically, just to give you a historical background, long back, in 1996, a group was formed to look at this Insecticide Act 1968. And then later in 1998, a core committee was formed. And then the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Agriculture, they looked at this entire Insecticide Act and how it is being enforced. So in 2001, they have issued a report where they recommended increase in punishment for selling spurious insecticides. So this demand of spurious insecticide, even now it is there, But this is mostly from industry for their studies. Almost 40 to 50% of Indian pesticide market is spurious. So I think that's their data is showing. That means wrong, misbranded or wrong. I mean the quality is problematic, or basically it is spurious. Then there was this parliamentary standing committee on petroleum and chemicals, which recommended stringent punishment for violations. It was in 2002. So then again, in 2003, we had a joint parliamentary committee, which was looking at pesticide residues and safety standards for soft drinks, fruit juice, and other beverages. So you might remember long back, Center for Science and Environment, they brought out a analysis of soft drinks, and they found pesticide
Dr.
residues in
Reddy,
soft
a
drinks.
small request. Dr. Reddy, can you speak a little louder? Some participants are not able to hear.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Then there was a committee headed by Secretary Department of Chemicals and Petrochemicals, and they made a recommendation on data protection provisions of TRIPS. I think this you should remember. Ramu was mentioning when they are saying digitization, they are not talking about any specific data, because these recommendations are basically trying to protect. I mean, the industry wants its data to be protected, and it should not be generic, or it should not be made available for all. I mean, in general. So this committee has recommended data protection, and even now that pressure from the industry is there. Then, as I mentioned, the first amendment bill was introduced in 2008. In fact, for this long, 10, 15 years, the discussion was whether to make amendments to Insecticide Act or bring a new bill. So even that kind of, and ultimately a new bill was introduced in 2008. Of course, later it became controversial, because we from civil society, we looked at it very deeply, and we mobilized members of parliament, and in fact we had a delegation from Andhra Pradesh headed by the Minister for Agriculture. So we went to the parliament, and we stopped that. Based on after that pressure, government has amended, proposed amendments in 2013, when Sharad Pawar was still the Minister for Agriculture. But somehow, even the industry did not want that text to be passed, so it did not go through. Later, it went into oblivion, and again resurfaced in 2020. And in 2020, again a new version was introduced. And then again it went to the Parliamentary Standing Committee. They gave a very detailed report on what kind of bill this can be. But again, it did not get passed. And now, last year in December, the government has proposed a new text, but the title say Pesticide Management Bill 2020. Basically, because this was introduced in Rajya Sabha, so I think government wants that to survive and use it, because they don't need to reintroduce again. So they can directly go to voting or debate or passing. But then there are now a few new reports which say that government is again interested in referring this bill to the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which we do not know if it is true or not. But why I am telling you all this is there is debate going on since 25 years on a pesticide new bill, and many provisions have been under discussion, threadbare. Many suggestions have been given, but the overall conflict between industry, regulators, and civil society, which are representing farmers and consumers. This conflict is going on each of the provisions, including word by word kind of interpretation. So it's pretty long, but one thing we can be sure is when the initial discussion happened about amendments, many of the propositions were they were in line with what the civil society has been asking. Like, what I recall. So once a pesticide is registered, when and how it can be recalled. Because all the pesticides, when they get registered, they assure safety, they assure efficacy, but when it is applied in the field, we have seen different outcomes coming out of that, and Indian Insecticide Act does not give that scope for review. So this review has been one of the major demands from civil society, which has been observing pesticide poisoning for long. In fact, all of you might know, India is the only country where mass poisoning has been happening. Usually, if you look at the literature across the world, they talk of acute poisoning of individuals, or chronic poisoning due to residues in the air, water. We have seen mass poisoning where within a short period, inhalational poisoning or accidental exposure led to numerous deaths. So, two distinct examples are one in Warangal in 2002, when we did a documentation, at least 500 farmers have died in within the period of August-September period. Similarly, in 2017, we have seen in Yavatmal, where again the same period, August, September, at least 1,800 farmers were hospitalized in district hospital, and many of them died. But government admits only 63 deaths. But there could be many. Of course, we have some data. But basically, this kind of mass poisoning, people dying in a limited period, in a limited area, due to pesticide poisoning, have been recorded only in India. So this is the kind of situation we have. And of course, now we have a lot of chronic poisoning across India. But again, there is no acknowledgement. So in that scenario, now in 2026, we are when we are looking at this pesticide management bill, it is very, very, it addresses only probably 10% of the problems which pesticides are causing across India. So, as I mentioned, there are many issues. I'll go through some of them, principal issues. Maybe when there is discussion, I can add more. So, fundamentally, first point, critical gap is weak institutional hierarchy. When I looked at this 2025 draft, it was much more diluted than the previous draft. So they proposed a central pesticide board, and it has its functions. And then they said the registration committee will be appointed by the central government, not by Central Pesticide Board. So the registration committee is independent of CPB. So that's where we see the institutional hierarchy is completely uh, unlinked, and central government retains a lot of powers in enforcing this law. So this I thought very strange, because registration committee can operate as a parallel power center with no accountability to Central Pesticide Board. And of course, Central Pesticide Board, they gave at least 15 functions. And one of the functions, we thought is very good is developing pesticide poisoning protocols. But then it is a function, it's not a provision in the law. So all the CPB functions, they remain functional because the wording is CPB will do advisory. It has largely advisory role, and it is only functions without any oversight on the registration. So here, when we are talking of regulation, how can CPB regulate, because it has no powers in relation with the registration or any other kind of provision within the law. So these are the issues. The other issue is most of the implementation happens at the sorry.
अपने आप को
Most
म्यूट
of the
करिएगा देवेंद्र
implementation.
जी, अपने को म्यूट अपने को म्यूट करिए देवेंद्र जी. Can someone mute him?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find his name. I will do it. Yeah.
Mr. Gandhi.
So most of the implementation happens at the state level, but then again, state government,
Yeah,
most
that's a
of
good
at
question. Is the slides moving, Dr. Reddy, on your screen? Because in our screen, they're not moving.
no, I did not move it. It is
Okay.
weak,
We're still on
weak
the weak
institution.
institutional hierarchy.
Yeah,
ठीक
yeah.
है, ठीक है. Okay.
I'm going to the next one. So the state governments, uh, they become mere, what do you say, satraps of a larger central government rather than an independent government elected by people as part of this law. I mean, the bill. Now, coming to the second one, traceability. Now, this has been advertised by the proponents of even the latest version, and they say now there will be complete digitization, and digitization in itself is being promoted as a traceability, but that's not the case, because there is nothing which helps us in understanding what kind of information will be digitized, and who will have access to that digitized information, and how people can get access. All that is not remains undefined. But the other problem is digital sales. Today Amazon or many other platforms, pesticides are being sold on the online platforms, and many people have bought them. And in fact, several state police returned to government saying that tracing buyers or tracing sellers has become a problem. But strangely, this bill does not talk about it. So banned substances, again, there is an issue which been raised, like endosulfan was banned in long back, but even today, so in some places, people are saying it is available. Monocrotophos recently they said it has been banned, but then there is a loophole where government said if the stocks are there, then it can be used. So when the notification came, we raised it. He said without a period, I mean limitation period, this open-ended wording saying until the stocks are there has given scope for continuation of monocrotophans. So these kind of aberrations continue to be there, and there is no mechanism which responds to this. In fact, recently we wrote to Central Pesticide Board citing that monocrotophans available despite being a ban. Then they said, no, we are referring it to our legal team, which is completely different. So, when this bill is saying traceability, the institutional provision or the responsibility has not been defined, and the information sharing or information, accessibility, all these are not there. So whatever traceability they are saying is only related to digitization and digital data, which I think most probably is only limited to industries or applicants of pesticide registration. Coming to this poisoning surveillance, now as I mentioned, across India we have been documenting a lot of poisoning cases, individual cases, mass poisoning, accidental cases, inhalational cases. Many kinds of poisonings have been documented, but the Indian government does not have a systematic reporting process at all. So, in fact, if you look at Insecticide Act, there is one provision which has been diluted subsequently. It says monitoring of pesticide usage at the state level. But as part of that, All India Pesticide Residue, All India Program for Pesticide Residue Monitoring has been put up. That too, long back after the act has come, but recently they diluted it, because even this limited monitoring was coming up with data across Indian cities like Thiruvananthapuram, Hyderabad, Delhi, Bombay, Kolkata. So where they get samples of vegetables in the market, and they found pesticide residues on many of the leafy vegetables. So this data was shown as a 4%, 10%, and not a big issue, that kind of thing. But still, that has been educating or increasing the awareness of the people on pesticide residue. So, industry pressurized the government, and for the past 4 years, these reports are not coming out. So they are being put under wraps. So this surveillance, monitoring, reporting is completely absent in this bill. So we have proposed, like in vaccines, adverse effects of from immunization, AEFI. We are now proposing a adverse effects of pesticide poisoning mechanism, which can help in documenting the poisoning cases, so that we can see, we can review, or it helps in taking action, ameliorating actions. So this is one issue which we thought are very important. In the bill again, there are a number of definitions, but many definitions are only definition. There are no provisions with related to that definition. So, for example, active ingredient. They mention active ingredient as a definition, but within the text of the bill, you don't find active ingredient as a defined word in terms of regulation, in terms of monitoring, in terms of traceability, nothing, nowhere. Similarly, risk is not there, poisoning is not there, sale, stock, technical grade pesticide, worker is there. Worker again is very limited definition. So we said in India, when the pesticide spraying is done by a farm worker or a farmer, always a woman, it could be a wife or sister or mother, they help in spraying and they are also exposed to the spraying conditions. But these are not recognized as workers. So we are saying you need to expand the scope of workers. On the other hand, if you see in the urban areas, now this pesticide control services are there. They use a lot of this sprayers, but even they are not defined or they are not included in the regulatory bill. The other issue which I mentioned is ordinary use pesticide. When they say ordinary use, this is basically outside agriculture, maybe in residential areas, residences, homes, or commercial complexes. But again, no, there is no other provision which facilitates any regulation of ordinary use pesticide. In fact, long back, as I mentioned in 2001, that Parliamentary Standing Committee said, uh, these pesticides which are registered for home use should be prevented from being used in agriculture. So that was one indicator that this crossover of pesticides is known for the policymaker. But now the problem is on the other side. Most agriculture pesticides are being used in residences and commercial complexes, like chlorpyrifos, imidacloprid. So these are all being they are registered for certain pests and certain crops and to be used in agriculture, but they are used in home or residential purpose. Similarly, we have mosquito control programs, transfluthrin, there are many other pesticides, but there is no regulation about the quantity or MRL or even minimum reference about MRL is also not there with regard to them. So these definitions are there, but absolutely no provisions. So I think again, we need to see how this can be operationalized. Now, excessive executive discretion is written all over the bill, especially central government is mentioned several times, and it decides many things at many stages. So the Central Pesticide Board is only advisory board, but in all other places it is the central government. And this central government, is it a Ministry of Agriculture or it is Ministry of Chemicals or what, and what is the process? I think that is again completely a dark hole or a black hole. So, for example, the penalties, they, for the first time, this was used even in seed bill. They have given minor, medium, and major offenses. So they are saying if you, in the label, if you misspell something or if you are not maintaining records, then it will attract smaller punishment. That's the reason we have segregated so that we don't want to criminalize violations, all violations is what government has been saying. And of course, decriminalization of all acts has been going on. I think you might know across the Environmental Protection Act or many other laws. So here they are giving a structured penalties. But then there is a provision which says that central government can review or can change time to time. So they said they can time to time change these penalties, which is very strange because central government can do that. In fact, they also propose a adjudicating officer equal to the rank of civilian court. So again, why a adjudicating officer and who regulates the adjudicating officer? what is the process, it's not there. But essentially that means government does not want to go these cases to civil court, but to a adjudicating officer, which means executive. So this is a kind of executive discretion is written all over the bill. So many things which are create a lot of concern. I'm coming to last two, inadequate criminal liability. Again, like most provisions, they they remove directors from even minimal these penalties or offenses. In fact, there is no liability at all, only with regard to misbranding or some kind of penalty, they have some liability. Even that has been, I mean, the directors of the company have been exonerated by using lack of knowledge defense. It can be used. Uh, and there is no disposal protocol. Disposal of pesticides has been a criminal offense, and it has happened several times where discarded pesticides have caused a lot of deaths. In fact, long back, when endosulfan was banned, one dealer has dumped at least 7 full barrels of endosulfan in a river. But so there was no liability for such criminal disposal. So as I mentioned, adjudicating officer is creating a parallel jurisdiction. So the workers definition, as I mentioned, it does not include women, but women have been part of this pesticide poisoning cases at many levels, but it remains under recognized and under acknowledged even by this bill. We proposed a lot of at least 19 new sections because, as I mentioned, whatever is there is very few. In fact, we proposed 54 amendments and 19 new sections. So, as I mentioned, I was talking about I know adverse events of poisoning. So, mandatory reporting. All the hospitals should be mandatorily reporting the poisoning cases, and investigations have to be done and establish civil or criminal liability. This is important because in recent years we have seen some cases where criminally some people have poisoned water resources, food, and many places, in Karnataka, at least 14 people died when they took prasadam from a temple, and someone mixed a pesticide because of the dispute between the purohits of the temple. So we have seen a school case where to malign the headmaster, someone again made one class 5 student to mix pesticide in the drinking water, but a mishap was avoided because they smelled bad. There was a bad smell, and they did not drink it, and ultimately they found pesticide in that. So there are a number of cases like that. So we need a mandatory reporting from hospitals, clinics, and we need a reporting a methodology where government starts documenting these kind of civil and criminal liability cases. Stock control, as I mentioned, ban enforcement, there is no provision about it. So we are saying if and whenever a ban is imposed until the stocks last, there is again no enforcement of that. So state governments have no role, and registration committee has no enforcement mechanism, and CPB is a mandate advisory body. So we are talking of mandatory disclosure, disposal protocols, technical grade regulation. As I mentioned, active ingredient is a major issue in every pesticide formulation, but also the other formulants, co-formulants, even they are a major poisoning, pathways. So I think we need more technical grade regulation and good manufacturing practices, standards, and traceability, where we look at how the liability can built on the manufacturer or the registered pesticide manufacturer. This is because we found recently nowadays they are having 4 or 5 companies are having marketing arrangements, and it becomes very difficult to trace the original registrant company and the linkage between them and the marketing company. In fact, this has become more hazy when the imports are being discussed. We have found that in the case of paraquat and in the case of diaphenthurian and other cases. And Section 4, even though FAO and other international bodies mandate you can sell only a pesticide when you are able to provide safety equipment. But here we have that provision, but there is no enforcement. So we are talking of how informal workers can be protected. Because in India, as I mentioned, many poisoning cases, that poor sprayer, he takes 700 rupees or 500 or 400 rupees per spray. But the consequences on the family, on his life, on his entire income is very severe. But that again is not acknowledged in this. So we proposed sections on that as well. So there are many things, as I mentioned, definitions. We need a lot of definitions. We need to see how institutions can be linked and a hierarchy can be created so that there is no buck passing and each one is tied to the decisions which are being made. Registration, I think Ramu mentioned about deemed to be registered pesticides. In fact, from 1968, we did not have deemed to be registered pesticide came because they said whatever pesticides were used before 1968 will continue to be deemed as registered. But surprisingly, after the act came, after at least 15, 20 years later, a number of pesticides have been given DRP status, which includes glyphosate. So I think we have some data of some 34 DRPs. So this is a misuse, direct misuse of the law and legal loophole. So now in the present bill, they are saying if the registration committee does not give approve any registration within 18 months, then it becomes a deemed to be registered pesticide. So that means it will be taken as registered. And so this 18 months period, it can be deliberately delayed. So every pesticide gets the DRP status. So because we don't have trust on this mechanism, there is no transparency, there is no information sharing with the people. So I don't think DRP is seen as a ease of doing business rather than a regulatory process. So we are talking of clear review process. So pesticide which have been registered 30 years back, 40 years back, they continue to be used. And pesticide which are banned outside India, at least 66 have been banned, have been identified. Even they are continuously being used. So we need a clear review process of pesticides because while registering, maybe the evaluation will be based on lab or some field data given by the company. But when it becomes an actual product in the field, the experiences in the field needs to be considered, and that pesticide has to go through a review process. And then, if depending on the review outcome, it can be banned. So that has been the case with several pesticides where glyphosate has been recommended by Maharashtra, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and I think even Gujarat. But central government did not even bother to reply to them. Licensing, as I mentioned, licensing is basically a state function. But there is, when they are saying a national register will be created, ultimately central government is also saying it has a function or it has a power to do the licensing at a national level. So this dual register is also creating a problem. A national register and a state developing a licensing data. So I think again this is a problematic. And then the state to the central pesticide board, it says every state has to report to this CPB quarterly in a quarterly report. I said, how a state government should be? State government is not a subordinate to CPB, which is just a institution, and we are talking of a state government. So this kind of reporting of a sovereign elected government to a executive body is also not acceptable. So public health, as I mentioned, we need to bring in more surveillance issues. We need actionable data. Then labs, again, government is trying to say any lab can be accredited, and that's how it wants to get over, sampling or assessment or collecting the evidence. So we are saying we need mandatory public labs, and those mandatory public labs should also have mandatorily responsible to any sample given by any citizen or any of the inspectors or analysts. So those kind of amendments are also required because without that mandatory public labs, I don't think we'll be able to enforce the traceability which is being talked about. Liability, all over the world, pesticide companies are liable for the most highly hazardous pesticide they are introducing into the environment, market, and agriculture. But in India, there is no mention at all about liability. So we are talking about strict corporate liability and also judicial clarity with regard to this liability. So we proposed the entire new chapter on ordinary use pesticide because there is a lot of poisoning cases happening at homes as well. We mentioned in Chennai and one place, the rented home, the owner fumigated the apartment. I think he painted it new, but with it included pesticide. So the rented people came back. They were told to go and come back. So they came back, slept in the apartment, and by morning they were dead. So this was because of the that pesticides which are used in the fumigation or most possibly in the paint. So there are many deaths which are happening at home, and poisoning is happening at home. Women and children are affected seriously. But there's no provision at all. So we proposed a new chapter in that. So we have proposed several chapters. I have given the link which gives you detail of the chapters. So I'm stopping here. I think we can have any detailed discussion based on the uh, questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. So vast, and it's been very, very detailed. And you really studied the bill so thoroughly. Thank you so much. We'll now have a quick translation, a translated summary of what you presented for the participants. So Swati, would you be able to do it?
Yes.
I know it was pretty detailed and very technical, so whatever you've been able to capture, please.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. I'm trying to translate it. So, कीटनाशक कानून सुधार जो 25 वर्षों की हमारी पृष्ठभूमि है और अभी तक वर्तमान जो बहस चल रही है उसमें बहुत अच्छे से समराइज किया है। तो हमारा जो ऐतिहासिक पृष्ठभूमि की बात करें 1966 से 2025 तक लगातार संसदीय समितियां कीटनाशक बिल जो 1968 की कमजोरियों पर ध्यान दिलाती रही हैं। नकली घटिया कीटनाशक आज भी बड़ी समस्या है। उद्योग के अनुमान के अनुसार अगर देखा जाए तो बाजार का 40 से 50% जो हिस्सा है वो नकली कीटनाशक दवाइयों से भरा हुआ है। अगर हम बात करें 2001, 2002 और 2003 की संसदीय समितियों व जेपीसी ने इसके तहत सख्त दंड, बेहतर प्रवर्तन और सुरक्षा मानकों की भी सिफारिश की है। अगर सीएससी रिपोर्ट 2003 की बात करें तो इसमें सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक में भी कीटनाशक के अवशेष उजागर किए गए हैं और खाद्य सुरक्षा पर गंभीर सवाल भी उठाए हैं। परंतु 3 दशकों से चेतावनियां दी जा रही हैं पर जमीनी हालात नहीं बदले हैं। यही वर्तमान सुधारों की पृष्ठभूमि है। अगर हम कानून सुधार की लंबी यात्रा की बात करें तो 2008 में पहला संशोधन विधेयक आया जो नागरिक समाज के तीव्र विरोध से रुका है। मगर 2013 में अगर बात करें तो 2013 का संशोधित प्रस्ताव उद्योग असहमति के कारण हमारा विफल रहा है, क्योंकि 2020 में जो हमारा कीटनाशक मैनेजमेंट बिल आया है इसमें संसदीय समितियों की रिपोर्ट के बावजूद भी ये पारित नहीं हो पाया है और 2025-26 में वही विधेयक नए पार्ट के साथ में आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश की जा रही है। ये एक नया कानून नहीं है बल्कि 25 वर्षों के संघर्ष और टकराव का परिणाम दिखा रहा है, जिसमें उद्योग बनाम किसान उपभोक्ता स्वास्थ्य हित को बिल्कुल नजरअंदाज किया जा रहा है। अगर हम देखा जाए तो भारत में कीटनाशक जहर की भयावह अगर वास्तविकता की बात की जाए तो 2004 में केवल 2 महीने में 500 से अधिक किसानों की मौत हुई है। 2017 में यवतमाल में 1800 से अधिक किसान हॉस्पिटल में भर्ती हुए हैं। सरकार ने केवल 63 मौतें ही मानी है, जबकि भारत दुनिया के उन गिने चुने देशों में है जहां सामूहिक कीटनाशक जहर की घटनाएं होती रहती हैं। अगर दीर्घकालिक जहर की बात करें तो हमारी सरकार निगरानी नहीं रख पाती है और जो सही आंकड़े हैं वो छुपाने का कोशिश करती है। अगर मुख्य समस्या की अगर बात करें तो कमजोर संस्थागत ढांचा जो है वो हमारा सीपीबी जो सेंट्रल पेस्टिसाइड बोर्ड, इसकी भूमिका लगातार पूरी तरह से एडवाइजरी रही है, सलाहकारी रही है। जहर प्रोटोकॉल बनाना केवल कार्य है मगर बाध्यकारी प्रावधान नहीं है कि इसे लागू ही करना है। तो अगर हम रजिस्ट्रेशन कमेटी की बात करें तो केंद्र सरकार द्वारा सीधे नियुक्त किया जाता है और सीपीपी से स्वतंत्रता उसको मिलती है, मतलब एक समानांतर शक्ति केंद्र अगर कहा जा सकता है इसको। तो जवाबदेही और निगरानी का पूर्णतया से इस पूरे एक्ट में अभाव है। अगर हम देखें तो ये बिना मजबूत, स्वतंत्र और जवाबदेह नियामक के कोई भी कानून प्रभावी नहीं हो सकता है। ये हम सभी मान रहे हैं डॉक्टर रेड्डी जी की बात से। अगर प्रमुख खामियां की बात की जाए तो बहुत अच्छे से इसमें उजागर किया है कि हमारी राज्यों की कमजोर भूमिका है, जिसमें जमीनी क्रियान्वयन के बावजूद भी वास्तविक शक्तियां नहीं मिल पा रही हमारे राज्यों को, जिसके कारण केवल फोकस किया जा रहा है डिजिटलीकरण बनाम ट्रेसिबिलिटी के लिए कि कौन सा डेटा किसे उपलब्ध कराना है, किसे उपलब्ध नहीं कराना है, ये स्पष्ट अभी तक नहीं हो पाया है। ऑनलाइन बिक्री और प्रतिबंधित स्टाफ पर भी कोई नियंत्रण नहीं है अभी तक। जहर निगरानी का पूर्णतया अभाव है, क्योंकि कौन सा पॉइजन कितना खतरनाक है और उसमें क्या लेबलिंग हो रही है इसकी भी कोई अधिक प्रोटोकॉल नहीं बनाया गया है। अनिवार्य रिपोर्टिंग प्रणाली भी नहीं है, इसका भी पूरा तरीके से अभाव है। प्रस्ताव किया गया है हालांकि एडवर्स इफेक्ट ऑफ पेस्टिसाइड पोजनिंग तंत्र का, मगर केवल परिभाषाएं दी गई हैं, मतलब डेफिनेट डेफिनेशन बहुत अच्छे से बनाया गया है, मगर उसका प्रावधान अभी भी नहीं मिल पाया है। हमारा जो वर्कर पॉइजनिंग रिस्क है, जो सब परिभाषित पर नियमन जो है, वो भी बहुत कमजोर है। तो घरेलू शहरी उपयोग की अगर हम बात करें, तो घरों में, कॉम्प्लेक्सों में जो हमारे मॉस्किटोज मच्छर नियंत्रण में कृषि कीटनाशकों का अनियंत्रित उपयोग हो रहा है, और इसका कोई भी रेगुलेशन नहीं है और कोई नियंत्रण नहीं है कि आप अगर सड़कों में, गलियों में जो कीटनाशकों का उपयोग कर रहे हैं, वो कितना लोगों के लिए हानिकारक है या नहीं है, इसका भी कोई
हानिकारक हो सकता
रेगुलेशन नहीं है। दंड और जवाबदेही कार्यपालिका का भी, अगर जो अपराधों का वर्गीकरण बात किया जाए, तो ये एक सकारात्मक कदम है, लेकिन दंड बदलने का अधिकार भी हमारी कार्यपालिका को दिया गया है। इसमें अगर देखा जाए, तो हमारी कंपनियां और प्रतिबंधित कीटनाशकों के निपटान पर कोई भी पर्याप्त प्रोटोकॉल भी नहीं बनाए गए हैं। इस हिसाब से जो आवश्यक समाधान का संक्षेप है कि अनिवार्य जैव रिपोर्टिंग और
है।
राष्ट्रीय निगरानी प्रणाली की जरूरत है। प्रतिबंध के बाद भी रिकॉल, स्टाफ नियंत्रण और नष्ट करने के स्पष्ट नियम बनाए जाने चाहिए। हमें ट्रेसेबिलिटी की जरूरत है, और राज्यों में वास्तविक प्रवर्तन शक्ति की भी जरूरत है। कार्यपालिका का विवेक सीमित कर विधायी स्पष्टता हमें बनाने की जरूरत है, और हमें जो भी हमारे कॉर्पोरेट और निदेशक स्तर की स्पष्ट जवाबदेही तय करना हमें बहुत जरूरी है। और इसमें अगर देखा जाए, जो हमारे नमूना जांच और जांच के लिए जाते हैं, तो उसमें अनिवार्य सार्वजनिक प्रयोगशालाएं आवश्यक हैं, क्योंकि इन प्रयोगशालाओं की कानूनी जिम्मेदारी जिससे किसी भी नागरिक को या जो भी हमारा इन्वेस्टिगेटर है, विश्लेषक द्वारा दिए गए नमूनों की जांच अच्छे से हो पाए। इसके बिना जो हम ट्रेसेबिलिटी का प्रवर्तन संभव नहीं कर पाएंगे। इसमें लाइबिलिटी या देयता का भी प्रावधान होना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि जो हमारे विश्व भर में अत्यधिक खतरनाक कीटनाशक हैं, उनके लिए जो कंपनियों की देयता वो तय होनी आवश्यक है। भारत में कारपोरेट की देयता का स्पष्ट प्रावधान नहीं है, क्योंकि कारपोरेट को हम पूर्ण सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। तो हमें स्ट्रिक्टली कॉर्पोरेट लाइबिलिटी और न्यायिक स्पष्टता बनानी होगी। हमारे घरेलू उपयोग में भी जो जहर, घरों में होने वाली जो जहर और मौतों से घटनाएं बढ़ रही हैं, उसमें भी देखना होगा, क्योंकि उदाहरण तौर पे जैसे रेड्डी जी ने बताया कि चेन्नई में फ्यूमिगेशन पेंट में कीटनाशक के कारण पूरे परिवार की एक मौत हुई है। महिलाएं और बच्चे सबसे अधिक इससे प्रभावित है। वर्तमान में कोई भी विधेयक या नियमन नहीं है। इसके लिए नया स्वतंत्र अध्याय प्रस्तावित करना, लाइसेंस, सुरक्षा, री एंट्री, सूचना और जवाबदेही की जरूरत है। तो इसमें हमारा प्रस्तावित सुधार है अनिवार्य सार्वजनिक लैब्स बनाना, नागरिक आधारित सैंपलिंग करना, और कड़ी कॉर्पोरेट देयता, क्योंकि उनके लिए हमारा रेगुलेशंस बहुत जरूरी है बनाना। इन प्रावधानों के बिना कानून ना तो प्रवर्तनीय होगा और ना ही घरेलू और शहरी जहर को रोक पाएगा। व्यापक सुधारों के साथ ही जन स्वास्थ्य की वास्तविक सुरक्षा भी संभव है। थैंक यू।
बहुत अच्छा किया, वेरी वेरी गुड ट्रांसलेशन। आई थिंक बोथ द ट्रांसलेटर्स हैव डन अ वंडरफुल जॉब, both Reena and Swati require a big applause. So thank you so much. अब ये आप लोगों को, डॉक्टर रेड्डी, डॉक्टर रामू, आप लोग कुछ एडिशनल पॉइंट अभी बोलना है, या विल now take the questions
So
and then
let's take the questions. Yeah.
we'll
Let's
take
take
the
the questions.
So the questions, currently there are many of them on the chat, so I'll just read them out, and then after that we can get if there are more spontaneous questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So the first question that is from Puran Barthwal is, what is the impact of the bill on the National Mission for Natural Farming and the bio inputs process, that we are doing under the natural farming processes? So in this bill, and how is it connected to natural farming and the NMNF? Have I translated correctly, Puran ji?
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल सही। थैंक यू वेरी मच। बढ़िया।
चलिए, रामू या
Yeah, if I had to take the question, I think there is two implications of this. One, wherever if BRC starts selling any of these things bottled, then they may come under regulation. So we may have impact on that. Second, once we are putting out all these information, publicly sharing what we are doing, any industry can get them approved for themselves, and then make all of us not to use it even. Because on the traditional knowledge usage also, there are no clear clauses in the act. This is what both the implications is what I feel. Reddy garu మీరు ఏమైనా యాడ్ చేస్తారా? You want to add anything?
Yeah, I think we are discussing biopesticides, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
homemade biopesticides in the NMNF,
Yeah.
like whatever we are using now, what are the implications? So I feel one, if you are bottling and selling, it may come under regulation. Second, using this knowledge, anybody can make it their own, and there is no way you can prevent it, because on the traditional knowledge, it is very vaguely mentioned. It's not detailedly mentioned.
No, basically, I think at the national level, within the officials, there has been discussion going on to bring out a separate biopesticide law. Because whenever I had been in workshops, they were mentioning it. In fact, someone said that the bill is almost ready. But when this new pesticide 2025 bill came, there is, we don't get any inkling that they are trying to bring any new regulation on biopesticides. But then a pesticide industry, chemical industry, is also pushing for regulation of biopesticide because they see this as a threat to their markets. So here in this bill, what I noticed is the definition of pesticides. They try to include a biological origin as part of the definition. So if they are going to stretch it and interpret it as to include biopesticides, then all the provisions of this bill will also apply to biopesticides. But then there is a difference again, as Ramu mentioned, large-scale manufacturing and home-based preparations. But because if they are trying to apply this to biopesticides which are marketed, labeled, and packaged, I think still there is a lot to be left about assessing the quality of biopesticides. On the other hand, if they are trying to bring or regulate biopesticides which are produced by farmers in their farms or within their sphere of influence, I think that's not acceptable. But I don't think government is also looking at it.
No, see, on the biostimulants, etc., biostimulants, biofertilizers, they already brought in a law, because and the biopesticides, they are anyway part of this law. So that's why they didn't talk about it. But whether they will apply this to homemade biopesticides is one question. Second question is, if the industry comes up with registration of any of these the homemade ones, how to make it more transparent. There's no provisions here, because they only mentioned very vaguely that the traditional the traditional knowledge is used, they should inform, but whom to inform, what is the source, etc., nothing was mentioned. So the law should actually give clearly defined, because in any of the other products, if any traditional knowledge is used, they should get approval from the CSIR that the traditional knowledge is used, benefit sharing mechanism is defined, all that is there. So that particular clause is very weak in this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, there are a couple of questions from Jivdas. Jivdas, can you ask your question yourself? I was not able to understand what you were asking. If he's still here. Mr. Jivdas.
Naren.
Yes. So, Jivu, can you ask your question yourself?
Yeah. एक तो मेरा सवाल ये था कि ये जो सेंटर एंड स्टेट वाला जो मुद्दा था, पावर डेलीगेशन का, एक रजिस्ट्रेशन का, एक यूज करने का, कि ये अगर वो सेंटर से स्टेट में आ जाएगा तो क्या स्टेट मैकेनिज्म ऐसे भी है कि उसको कंट्रोल कर सकता है इसका यूज को?
No, I
यूज
think
ऑफ द पेस्टिसाइड।
see, state has to regulate because agriculture is a state subject, and then Department of Agriculture is under the state, and they are the ones who regularly watch and give permissions. So I think state should have the more regulatory power. If they are not doing, how do we improve their skill sets, and then how do we make them more accountable? Is something we need to look at the state level, because in the last several years of experience, what we have seen is it's the states which try to regulate. It's the states which try to reduce the pesticide use wherever they have it happened. Center never did that because central government always sees as a agency which regulate industry, and then now it shifted its focus from regulating to promotion. So at the usage level, regulation should be at the state level, and then state should have the powers.
सर, और एक सवाल मेरा था कि माने कुछ जगह में जैसे पंजाब, ये सब एरिया में लोग एजुकेटेड है, पेस्टिसाइड के ऊपर में क्या एआई है, कितना दिन उसका एक्सपायर डेट है, क्या डोज में देना है, जानता है। लेकिन हमारा जो ये परिप्रेक्ष्य है, कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, ज्यादातर इनका जो सेलर है जो बोल दिया वही करता है, और वही जो है एक के बाद एक अल्टरनेटिव पेस्टिसाइड देते रहता है। पेस्टिसाइड क्या बोलते हैं, इंसेक्टिसाइड के जगह में फंजीसाइड दे देता है, कभी हार्बिसाइड दे देता है, हार्बिसाइड अप्लाई कर दिया, पूरा धान का धान खत्म हो गया है, तो उसका भी भेजते रहता है। तो ये जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कैसे करके ये जो लेबलिंग किया जाता है, ठीक है ना, कोई भी पेस्टिसाइड है, इंसेक्टिसाइड है, फंजीसाइड है, हार्बिसाइड है, लेबलिंग किया जाता है इसको, और क्या मीन्स आप सजेस्ट करते हैं ताकि वो सब एक्ट के अंदर में आ जाए?
The earlier labeling clauses, we were bringing up this to the notice of the government. See, local language में लिखना एक कंडीशन है लेबलिंग रिक्वायरमेंट में, बट वो लिखते हैं कि जो उड़ीसा में बेचते हैं उसमें तो तेलुगु में लिखते हैं, जो आंध्रा में बेचते हैं उसमें तमिल में लिखते हैं, तो ऐसा कुछ लोकल लैंग्वेज में लिखते हैं, बट जिसको जो लैंग्वेज आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा वो ये कर रही है। दूसरा, फॉन्ट साइज अगर आप देखा तो 3 फॉन्ट या 5 फॉन्ट में लिख रही है कॉशन के बारे में, प्रिकॉशनरीज के बारे में, बट नाम तो इतना बड़ा लंबा दे देती है। तो इन सब के ऊपर रिस्ट्रिक्शंस लाने के लिए लेबलिंग के ऊपर भी हमने सजेशंस किया था, बट वो सब के बारे में कुछ नहीं बोला गया है ये एक्ट में। और आप जो मुद्दा लाया है कि बेचने के समय जो चीटिंग हो सकता है, एक के बिना दूसरा देना, ऐसा के सिचुएशंस में वो डीलर का रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, बट अगर बिल है तो कुछ कर सकते हैं, बट ज्यादा का समय बिल के बिना दे देते हैं लोग।
Additionally, I think additionally, not only at the scale point where wrong pesticide is given against the registered use, every pesticide has a registered use. It has to be used only on particular crop. So, but what we found is even the state, agriculture universities or agriculture scientists, they have been recommending without reference to the registered use. So we wrote to a few universities because in their websites they recommend particular pesticide for a particular insect, but the registered is used not that. So that's how monocrotophos has become a generic pesticide across food.
Guideline for everything.
So I think we have been raising this, but so far there is no criminal liability because this recommendation has no linkage with the usage in terms of legal provision. And now in this bill, they are saying they will control sale point aberration by merely registering the this sale whoever sells, but they are not talking of there is a distributor defined, and then there is a wholesaler defined. I think there is another word I forgot. So I said, what is the difference between the distributor and this other person? They are the same. There is no wholesaler, or there is a regular, retail sale. So government says we have a traceability mechanism through this bill, right from manufacturing up to the usage. But there are several gaps in that in this as well. So now with the digital platforms becoming sale points, I think this question raised by you becomes much more problematic. In fact, in the case of glyphosate, government brought a new notification in 2020. They said glyphosate can be sprayed by only pesticide control operator, trained PCOs. But there was a pressure from the industry. Then they diluted it. Then they said only PCOs. Then they later diluted it further, and they said anyone who brings a certificate can spray it. So this kind of you know dilution is there even if there is a provision. So basically, regulation, as Ramu was saying, it has to be at the state level. Because right now this is happening because states have no control. They are merely licensing, and they need not do anything at all. They can't do anything also. Even pesticide analysts, they are appointed. They say it has to be appointed by the government. But who pays for the salary? How many pesticide analysts have to be there? How many labs have to be there? What is the cost? Each sample, pesticide sample costs 25,000 rupees. So even if they take one sample from one village, I think across the state government has to bear at least 200 to 500 crores only on sampling, if it is interested in doing sampling. So basically, there are many areas where state government and regulation is completely zero. And these are the issues which keep coming up. In fact, the other issue is the mixing, cocktail. Now, all the farmers do cocktail. Maybe it is because of the suggestion by the pesticide dealers, or on their own they do that because they don't see efficacy of the particular pesticide. But then there's no provision for cocktail of pesticides in the law. Yet it is
No, but
recommended. It is recommended by some state agriculture universities.
just to add on a couple of things. One, just to add on, I have a couple of points here. One is at the state level, it becomes officers' responsibility to collect the sample and then submit till it is proven. So they have to pay from their pocket. They have to bear the cost of legal action. So if the court, if there is a case filed on the industry, any, say for example, if an agriculture officer collects a sample by paying from his pocket and then takes it for testing, if the industry files a case on the agriculture officer has to bear all the costs from his pocket. Government will not take any responsibility. So if the case is filed in Surat, from Hyderabad, they have to go to Surat and attend the case at their own cost. This is a kind of situation today. So no officer is feels accountable to take any action. Second, in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, so agriculture university, 65% recommendation, 5% of the recommendations are not linked to the registration at all. Hello, can you hear now? Hello.
Your second point was breaking at the time of
Yeah.
second point.
Ramu, maybe you can switch off your
So
video.
the point,
Ramu, you
so
can switch off
what
your
we have
video
seen
and
is,
just speak.
so we did a study on the recommendations made by the university. So in Andhra Pradesh Agriculture University, 65% of the recommendations are not registered. So which means without registration, they cannot make recommendations. So it's like the earlier one of the participant asked, instead of one pesticide, if another pesticide is given, who is responsible? The same way, if it is not registered, if that is recommended, it is a criminal act. But many of the recommendations are like that. As per the law, every recommendation has to be registered, but many of the recommendations are not registered today. So there is no action in any of these. There's no accountability fixed in any of the clauses in this act.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Detailed answer. Yeah. There's a similar question by one Ankit Kumar. I think Ankit, you also got your response because your question is almost on who is accountable for wrong, recommendations. I think that has been taken care of.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. So there's one more. Let me just complete the questions on the list, then you can ask. Okay. Let me just complete the questions that have already come. So the one question, Ramu and Dr. Reddy, question from Mamata. Does the bill address pesticides that are banned in developed countries? Is there a plan to phase them out in India as well?
No, not all. No, it is not. It doesn't mention any of these things.
Okay. So India will have its own protocol for banning and listing.
Yeah.
In fact, the bill, the title of the bill, and then the preamble, and then some of the, there is a statement of justification at the end. So all this together says that governments want to encourage more pesticides, increase production of pesticides, increase exports, and have zero regulation. It also says ease of doing business within the bill. So question of phase out, recall, review, this is what we have been demanding. Not only we, I think Parliament members in their committee reports, several times they mentioned it. But then government, a review was there before and now they have diluted. So government is, the bill, through the bill, government is trying to say pesticides needs to be encouraged, not phased out.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So now questions. One, who is Oppo CPH 2599 who had stopped? Please go ahead. Ask a question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Please ask your question. Yeah. Just introduce yourself
My name
and
is
ask the question.
My name is Bamdev.
Please
Hello.
go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you.
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि who is the responsible for the heavy dose selling? Because of the one incident I had met in 2 years ago. Agro center suggesting a dose for farmer. Single मतलब fungicide, Rocco, thiophanate methyl, and also a hexaconazole, and also carbendazim plus mancozeb, and three type of fungicide selling for a single single crop. So who is the responsible for selling heavy dose? is there any conclusion or any law for these type of agro centers?
No, there is no law. There is no provision. It's only.
So who is the controlling authority? Because these are the
There is no.
actual crimes.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, when the registration is done, they have a evaluation of data and then they give some conditional registration. And in those conditions, this AI or dosage or what the company gives, and that's what they have to sell according to that. But when it comes to the retail level of usage, so the communication between a pesticide dealer and then the farmer is completely beyond the law. So there is no monitoring or there is no regulation of those recommendations. And so the question of dosage, whether he is using as per recommendation, all those are issues of concern. Then the other part is, as label. Label is also so confusing, for the farmer to understand the dosage of what is written on the label, which is again very confusing. And many labels, you can't even read them. And even if you read them, you can't understand the how much water has to be mixed, how much of this pesticide has to be used. So all this is not completely clear. So there is all these issues are because there is no liability, there is no accountability. So everyone will say whatever they want to say, and everyone will do whatever they want to do. So there is no traceability, there is no responsibility, and there is no accountability.
Thank you. Ritagandha, you have a question? Actually, before that, Dr. Reddy, since you have to leave in a very short while, do you have any other points to make before you, or you want to listen to the next question?
No, we can go to the next question, and after this I'll leave because I need to travel.
Okay, so I'm requesting Ramu to please continue for some more time to take rest of the questions. So Ritu, please ask your question quickly.
जी सर, अभी जो सिनेरियो है जो हम देख रहे हैं कि जो ऑनलाइन सेलिंग है अभी जो है एग्जिस्टिंग फिजिकल प्लेटफॉर्म पे या गांव में जो उपलब्ध है वो ज्यादा है, ऑनलाइन सेल कंपैरेटिवली कम ही है कंपैरेटिव कृषि सेवा केंद्र से। तो आपको क्या लगता है इन फ्यूचर ये जो दो प्लेटफॉर्म है, एक तो ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म है और एग्जिस्टिंग कृषि सेवा केंद्र वाला गांव वाला प्लेटफॉर्म है, इन दोनों में क्या ऑनलाइन में बढ़ोतरी होगी? है तो एग्जिस्टिंग जो अभी सॉरी जस्ट टू कंप्लीट, और एग्जिस्टिंग अभी जो ट्रेसेबिलिटी हो गया या ऑथराइजेशन सर्टिफिकेट का लेकर ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म का क्या बैकग्राउंड है रिगार्डिंग सेफ्टी है स्टैंडर्ड्स और रेगुलेशन?
So, see, what will happen is even the Krishi Seva Kendras will be linked to the online platforms. जैसा देहात ये सब हो रही है, ऐसा हो जाएगा आने वाली दिनों में. So it will be like a online linked platforms is what will come in. So that will happen. So anybody can sell anything today. That is what the problem which Narasimha Reddy also raised. Because if you see on Instagram and also on the YouTube, you will find there is a herbicide which is sold, saying you can use it in your home or in your farm. It will kill all the grass. This is an advertisement which is been running for a while, and that herbicide is banned. But banned in India, it is not permitted at all. But somebody is selling. No one knows. As per the e-commerce regulations, any e-commerce portal to sell any product in a particular state, they have to follow the state laws. Second, they have to have the license from the any legal requirements at the state level or national level. They have to follow. So, for example, if Amazon is selling in pesticides in Andhra Pradesh, they should have. But what Amazon says is they are only courier service. They are not selling pesticides. They are only connecting the seller to the buyer.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's how they're escaping. So we need to come up with a more comprehensive regulation, both from on the e-commerce as well as on the stores, because it's virtually today Amazon is a store. They may argue that this is only a digital platform which is connecting. So all that who understands? Basically, farmer is buying because it is seen there. So these have to come in into the regulation.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That is. Dr. Reddy, you want to add something to this?
No, I'll just add one more point and then leave.
Okay.
In fact, since 2008, we have been talking of three principal things. One is state government should have more role and power in deciding registration, regulation, all those things. The second is the price regulation, which we have been demanding for long. So right now, prices are dictated by them. On the other hand, pesticide companies are asking for GST, zero GST. They want even income tax exemption. So that demand is there. On the other hand, we are talking of price regulation. Third, important thing is we are saying compensation and liability. We need to be integrated into the bill because a lot of people are dying because of these hazardous pesticides introduced into environment, home, and agriculture. So this is, completely off the bill because the industry is not accepting. In fact, Sharad Pawar, when we went to him in 2009, the first question he said is, companies do not accept this. So that's what ministries are looking at. What companies will accept? So if we are giving 58 amendments and 19 new sections, these have to be acceptable to the companies. That's how the government is looking at. So this is where we need to, from the people side, we need an overwhelming response saying this is what people are asking. So it's not companies which are important. It is the people who are asking this. So that's where I think this kind of webinars are more awareness and more feedback from people can help. In fact, in 2017, a lot of people have written, and that's how again it stopped, whenever these things have come. So again, we have entered a new phase. So we need each of us to write and then see that whatever we are asking is included in the bill. So I'll leave you. Sorry, I have to go because I have a bus to catch. Thank you.
No. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we all from our side express our deep gratitude to Dr. Reddy. It was great of you to come when you're so busy schedule you had. Thank you so much. And it's very informative that you were able to give us time and contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Any more questions? Mamta, your hand is up. So you have any further question or आपका सवाल पूछा गया है?
नमस्कार, मैं ग्रेविस से ममता शर्मा जोधपुर से। सर, मुझे ये प्रश्न पूछना था कि क्या ये जो विकसित देशों की तरह हमें नहीं बताया गया है कि कौन कौन से, या फिर इस बिल में कुछ नहीं ऐड किया गया कि कौन कौन से पेस्टिसाइड को कंट्रोल किया जाना चाहिए, इलीगल कंट्रोल बता देना चाहिए, तो क्या हम इसके लिए, क्योंकि ये हमें दिया गया है, तो हम इसके लिए कुछ लिख के देंगे? हम उधर कोई अपनी तरफ से लिखेंगे कि जैसे ईयू में बैंड है, कई यूएस में बैंड है, पैराफिन और डाइपैराफिन बैंड है, उन सब के लिए क्या हम लिखेंगे कि वहाँ बैंड है और हम भी चाहेंगे कि इंडिया में भी बैन हो? क्या हम लिख पाएंगे?
नहीं लिख सकते हैं। तो जो भी इंटरनेशनली बैन है वो सब भारत में लिखने बैन करने के लिए बहुत दिनों से कोशिश हो रही है। 61 ऐसा पेस्टिसाइड्स है जो कई देशों में बैन हुआ है, तो फिर भारत में परमिटेड है। बट ये रेगुलेशन में नाम तो नहीं आने वाला है, बट रेगुलेटरी डिसीजंस कैसे लेंगे उसके बारे में एक्ट में होगा। तो एक क्लास हो सकता है कि इंटरनेशनली जो भी बैन है उसको यहाँ अलाउ नहीं करना है, क्योंकि सिर्फ बात ऐसा है, समझ लीजिए यूरोप में बैन हुआ पेस्टिसाइड यहाँ उपलब्ध है और वो यूरोप में उत्पादन होती है और यूरोप का कंपनी यहाँ बेचते हैं और यहाँ लोग किसान इस्तेमाल करती है और उसका रेसिड्यूस अगर आया तो यूरोप ये प्रोडक्ट को नहीं खरीदते हैं।
खरीदेगा नहीं।
अरे नहीं खरीदेगा, तो वो जो प्रोडक्ट हमको बेच रही है और वो प्रोडक्ट को वो नहीं, तो उनका रेसिड्यू को भी वो नहीं खरीदने वाला है। समझ लीजिए वो पूरा पेस्टिसाइड को हमको बेच रही है और वो रेसिड्यू भी वो नहीं एक्सेप्ट कर रही है। तो इसलिए हम ये डिसीजन लेना है कि जो भी इंटरनेशनली बैंड है वो सब हम भी बैन करने की जरूरत है।
ये
Very
नरेंद्र
interesting point.
साहब,
Very interesting point you raise. But I think in the recommendations we are planning now, this can be surely be a
this can be one of the
recommendation,
clauses,
right?
yeah.
When on an ongoing basis, whenever pesticides get banned internationally, they
We
should be
should
banned
also
here
do
as
that.
well.
Otherwise, all our exports are getting affected.
That's a good point.
रंजन जी बताइए।
राजीव जी प्लीज।
सर मेरा ये पूछना था कि क्या आपने इस सेशन में कोई कीट शास्त्र से विशेषज्ञ बैठे हैं, इंटमोलॉजिस्ट हैं क्या?
मतलब
डॉक्टर रामू इज एन एक्सपर्ट इन ऑल द सब्जेक्ट्स दैट यू आस्क। अब बताइए आपका सवाल क्या है, बताइए।
नहीं, मेरा ये सवाल था कि बड़ा ही स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक पे हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं, जो कीट शास्त्र को कीट शास्त्र जिसको लीड करता है। तो मुझे बड़ा ही टेक्निकल सवाल, अभी जैसे इंटरनेशनल क्वेश्चंस आए या हम लोग कीट की बात कर रहे हैं, मतलब कीड़े मकोड़े की बात कर रहे हैं या कीट की बात कर रहे हैं, पहली बात। दूसरी बात,
कीड़ों को मारने की बात कर रहे हैं,
कीड़ों को
जिंदा रखने की नहीं।
तो मेरा ये
ये तो उल्टा बात कर रहे हैं।
मैं थोड़ा सा इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ कि मैं एग्रीकल्चर साइड से ही हूँ और हम लोगों को जो कीट शास्त्र पढ़ाया गया है वो इंसेक्टिसाइड एंड पेस्टिसाइड, राइट, जैसे हिंदी में कीड़ा मकोड़ा बोलते हैं, और उसको रेगुलेट करने की जो बॉडी है CIB है, सेंट्रल इंसेक्टिसाइड बोर्ड। इसमें मैंने भी काम किया है कुछ इंटरनेशनल और ये सब। तो कीट शास्त्र वाले लोग शायद मतलब ज्यादा ही इस चीज को वैलिडेट करते हैं। हालांकि आपका कानून विशेषज्ञ लोग काफी अच्छा बता रहे हैं, लेकिन इन प्रैक्टिकली मुझे लग रहा है कि थोड़ा कीट शास्त्र से जो अनुभवी लोग होंगे उनका अगर आप मंतव्य लेते हैं तो ये आपका जो एक्ट है वो ज्यादा सुदृढ़ होगा। क्योंकि इस सेशन पे मैं ज्यादा नहीं बोलना चाहता, लेकिन बहुत सारे चीजों को जो यहाँ रेज किया गया है उसको पुनः सोचने की जरूरत है। जो इंडिया का जो कृषि क्षेत्र है, यहाँ के जो कीड़े मकोड़े हैं उसकी क्या क्षमता है, आपका जो क्रॉप का इंटेंसिटी है, उसमें कैसे दवा का जाना है। तो मुझे जैसा लग रहा है कि इंटरनेशनल बैन है तो इंडिया में बैन होना चाहिए, ये थोड़ा सोचने वाली बात है कि नहीं होना चाहिए। दूसरी बात यह है कि इंटेंसिटी क्या होना चाहिए, कि हम कब अप्लाई करें। तो ये कीट शास्त्र विशेषज्ञ थोड़ा सा ज्यादा हम लोग को गाइड करते हैं, ये मेरा कहना है।
Pesticide means insecticides, fungicides, and all other kinds of things. So if you are using it for molluscicides, there are a number of chemicals which use are different things. So all that put together is a pesticide. So that is the issue. So all that comes under this regulation. All of them comes under this regulation. So second issue is,
I found in this discussion pesticide controlling board, no, CPB। तो थोड़ा सा मुझे ये कॉन्ट्रारी लगा कि जब CIB बोर्ड है तो CPB क्या है, और CPB अगर है।
नहीं, बात ऐसा है, in 1957 when the earlier act came, they called it as insecticide board, because उस समय it was only insecticides। बाद में जब सब आया है उन सब का रेगुलेशन भी CIBRC से हो रहा था। Now they renamed it as CPB, that's all। वही CIBRC को CPB नाम से लिखा हुआ है बस। या एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस?
या सुजाता, आपने हाथ उठाया, सवाल है या आप?
Good evening to everyone. I have a question, and thank you, Dr. Ramu, for your presentation. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. So, so I have a very specific question as to is there in the bill or in your suggestions, is there any provision for aligning, the regulation of the usage of pesticides according to export regulations? Because the government now has an overarching, focus on boosting exports, including agricultural exports. That inc so could you, is it a possibility
No,
that
yeah. So that's the point I raised earlier also. There is no,
and I
see, the
specifically
whole, see, the
in
bill,
relation to, so I would
the
just like
bill,
to complete this.
no, see, let me finish this. So the bill talks about production and export of pesticides. It doesn't talk about the export of food products and then the impact on that. It doesn't talk about it. So the ban on internationally banned pesticides is not there in the bill at all. So this bill, more than regulation, it's not talking about regulation. It's actually talking about improving the business of pesticides. That is the issue. I think that's what we need to start saying. The bill should be a regulatory bill. How to reduce pesticides should be the main objective. The objective cannot be increasing the pesticide usage.
So in that case, if the premise is so contradictory, uh,
Mm.
probably the government is not even looking at regulation, so to speak. Or
Exactly. That is the whole point we started with. Government is not looking at regulation. It started minimizing the regulation, decriminalizing even the criminal action, and then it is saying how do we encourage business. So that's why it said if in 18 months application is not approved, it is deemed to be approved.
Deemed
After
registered.
retirement, within deemed registration within 3 years, if somebody is retiring, they can go and join any industry. So today they can approve here, tomorrow they can go and join there. So these are the kind of
yeah, so
conditionalities these are bringing in.
I just have one request. If you are putting forward your, as civil society groups, if you're putting forward your suggestions, not that the government cares as much, but could you also include this, point of aligning pesticide usage regulations and MRL levels according to,
International
import
international
import
conditions.
regulation according to EU. I would specifically say
And
EU and Japan and all that countries because we are
EU,
losing
Europe,
we are
and
losing
EU and US as well. Yeah. No, I think that's a clause we thought we should add into the recommendations.
Yeah, because aligning it according to the Gulf regulations or African regulations or any other regulations does not, cut the ice. Because high
Correct.
value exports goes to EU, Australia, US, Canada, etc. Even though Canada does not have such stringent regulations, but we are losing out on a lot of national exchequer because of
Correct.
these MRL levels. And I mean, the government knows it, everybody knows it, the business community knows it all the more. So this is something that because it's about
Correct.
pesticides, please try and include it if anybody is willing to listen at all. Maybe lobbying with your, just talking to your member of parliament in your constituency, parliamentary constituency to raise the issue in the parliament might help because we are already, the next session is about to begin. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. The purpose is one to discuss very clearly, transparently, and also document it and submit it. Some point of time, somebody might accept it, somebody may not accept it. At least we from the civil society should have made our point. And that's also the
And
purpose
also
of
be
these.
aware of what is happening around us.
And we should be aware of what is happening around us. And we should be able to educate our farmers also about this, farmer leaders, our CRPs.
Hello.
Important.
Hello.
So we'll have one last question because we are on the closure of our event. Yeah. One more question. Monica, please go ahead.
हेलो
या
हेलो
मैं माधुरी बोल बात कर रही हूँ महाराष्ट्र से।
बताइए।
तो अभी भी जो आपने बोले बहुत सारे कानून है, फिर भी हमारे किसान लोगों सामान्य लोगों को नहीं पता क्या करना है। तो अभी भी लोग पेस्टिसाइड लाते हैं कृषि केंद्र से, और उनकी जान अभी भी जा रही है, फिर भी वो कुछ कर नहीं सकते। तो सामान्य लोगों तक ये जानकारी जानी चाहिए। तो ऐसे छोटे से या इसमें जानकारी कैसे दे सकते हैं अपन लोगों को?
नहीं, ऐसा एक काम कर सकते हैं आप, जो पेस्टिसाइड्स के बारे में कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करना, उसका टॉक्सिसिटी को लेबल लेके, लेबल में क्या पढ़ना, कौन सा पेस्टिसाइड बिल्कुल इस्तेमाल नहीं करना, कौन सा इस्तेमाल करना है तो क्या केयर लेना है, इसके बारे में तो जानकारी देने की जरूरत है। See, we all work on organic natural farming certainly, but there are farmers who are also using it. But asking them to reduce the pesticide use and then moving away from highly toxic pesticides to low toxic pesticides should go parallelly. Otherwise, what is happening is that they are just leaving the farmers to themselves. There's no campaign going on that. I think information on that should be there at every village level, so that at least people know अगर इसके ऊपर रेड है तो इस्तेमाल नहीं करना चाहिए, और पेस्टिसाइड पॉइजनिंग हुआ तो कैसे क्या करना चाहिए। बिकॉज मेनी टाइम्स हम देख रही है कि मक्के की खेत में हेर्बिसाइड स्प्रे करने के समय या वो ग्रैन्युल्स डालने के समय बहुत सारे पॉइजनिंग हो रही है, बट पॉइजनिंग हुआ तो क्या करना है किसी को पता नहीं है गाँवों में। तो जैसा हमने लिकर के बारे में जागृति करते हैं, टोबैको के बारे में जागृति करते हैं, ऐसा पेस्टिसाइड्स के बारे में भी जागृति तो करना पड़ेगा,
जागृति करें,
जरूरत है। अदरवाइज सी व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इज पीपल डोंट नो, दे यूज, इफ देयर इज अ टॉक्सिसिटी, इफ देयर इज अ टॉक्सिक इफेक्ट आल्सो दे डोंट नो, and if there's a poisoning also they don't know and they're using it. So I think that's something which is important. Don't think it is a contradictory to our work. It is actually part of our work.
हमारे इधर बहुत सारे महिलाएं भी किसान लोग खेती करते हैं ना, तो उनको भी नहीं पता कि क्या लेना है। तो किसान लोग कृषि केंद्र वाले ने जो दिया वो अपने घर में लाके वो करते हैं, उनको भी नहीं पता। तो बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम होता है, लेकिन बाद में क्या करना है ये भी नहीं पता तो लोगों को।
करेक्ट। तो ये सब के बारे में भी एक पॉम्पलेट जैसा होना चाहिए। Maybe we can ask the NCNF to circulate a note. We can make and then give it to. It will be good so that people will know what are the care they should take, and if there's a poisoning, what to do immediately.
Yeah, I think that is
that's
a good point. That's also part of our work. In addition to promoting bio inputs and biopesticides, we also say if at all you need to use chemical, this is the way you should
don't use. These are the things red hai. Don't use it. Don't use. Thank you.
I think we have really reached the end of the time, but there's a student here, so I would really like to hear from her. Monica, your hand was risen. Do you want to ask? She is a student, so it will be good to hear from her. Hello.
Thank you, Naren, and hi, Ramu. Nice to see you here.
Hi.
I was trying to understand the scope of alternatives to toxic pesticides in this bill, because often when we speak to the government about restricting or banning a particular toxic hazardous pesticide, they always ask us, what is the alternative to it? Do you have any credible research on the alternatives you'd like to promote? So the question is always about the alternatives. So do you think we can have some scope in the bill to sort of regulate or standardize the research on alternatives, or a body that could credibly put forward some alternatives? Like for paraquat, there is right now glufosinate that most doctors are recommending, but that also has its own problems.
Also its own problem. See, there are two issues we need to understand. One, the way they are saying as credible organizations is their own organizations. I would say, for example, when there was a whole debate happened about endosulfan, the Indian government was the one which argued, saying ban on endosulfan is not required. If it is banned, then farmers' access to cheaper pesticides will go. And we actually have put out the entire report saying for every recommendation endosulfan is used, there are alternatives. And then we listed out the entire alternatives. It was put for international review, and then it got banned. Unfortunately, internationally, such clauses, such efforts are there. But at the national level, nobody asks For them, if it is done by ICR, it is authentic. If it is not done by ICR, it is not authentic. And then ICR is not doing this. And also when they talk about alternatives, they look within the pesticides and herbicides. For example, if you have to look at many of these pesticides, the alternatives may not be in the pesticides itself, right? Alternate is for the pest management. Alternate is for the weed management. Alternate is not for a weedicide. I think that's a distinction we need to make. So the whole regulatory framework is about how do we regulate most harmful things is what this law should look at. And for the same recommendations, for that particular weed management, is there any alternative? And then that's a safer alternatives to be promoted. So in the main objective itself, the regulatory system should say, if at all using, we are regulating them. But overall objective of the regulation would be to promote more safer alternatives. I think that's how the law should be. But unfortunately, this law says we will promote and we'll promote more pesticide use by making ease of business. So that's what the law says today.
Thank you, Ramu.
Thank you, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll close our discussion now.
Thank you.
We have overshot our time. So thank you so much, Ramu. Thank you for all the participants for all the great questions you've asked. This engagement between NCNF and you need not stop here, because I think we'll summarize this, come back to you with the summary of the, we surely will share the video and then also the summary of all the discussions, the questions. And if there are any further questions which you think, I think there are a couple of questions we are not been able to take up, please ask that, we can send those questions to Ramu and he will surely answer them and send it back to us. Send it back to us on a common mail. And I think as one of our participants said, this bill, the way it is, looking at ease of doing business, etc., instead of naming it pesticide management, you should name it pesticide producers management or the company's management.
Promoting manager. Pesticide promoting. It's a sales law.
This is a sales
I will call it as a
law.
sales law. It is not a regulating law.
Yeah. This is not regulating pesticides, but actually promoting pesticides. So I think we all need to be aware of it. And as Madhuri ji also summarized, we should take it to our farmers and then tell them what is the correct use of these pesticides, and over a period of time, cut it off totally and convert yourself into bio inputs and biofertilizers. That is anyway as NCNF our mission to reduce and to totally eliminate chemicals, synthetic chemicals from our agriculture. So thank you so much for everybody listening and participating. And thank you again, Dr. Ramu and Dr. Reddy. And thanks to the translators, both Reena and Swati did a wonderful job. Thank you again. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Good night.
Thank you.